Thank you, thank you. So I told my friends I was doing a TEDx talk, and they were pumped. Dude, that's incredible. What are you talking about? And I told them, losing? What? Losing? They looked me in the eye as if I just told them I was going to become a professional juggler or something. But I told them, don't worry. Lucky for me, I'm a great storyteller. And I've got one hell of a story about losing. So before jumping into that story, let me ask you a question. What defines a leader? Their victories or their defeats? For 16 years of my life, I thought the answer was obvious. Leaders had to be perfect. But then I lost the biggest debate of my life in front of 200 people, and everything I thought I knew about leadership changed. You see, last summer, I attended the National Hispanic Institute, a debate competition. And if you know me, at the time I was very obsessed with winning and getting recognized through awards, so naturally I wanted to win something. So I decided to prepare myself for weeks. I'm talking full-on research papers, debate rehearsals, and I even made backup plans for my backup plans. I had everything figured out. Or so I thought. You see, when the event began, nothing I prepared worked. My structure failed, my arguments failed. If I wanted to win that award, I had to change, and so we did. We actually created pretty decent arguments, and we advanced round after round after round. And as we continued advancing, some of the participants started to notice our success. We started to build a reputation, and wouldn't you know it, I made it to the finals. I remember sitting down in the auditorium, being surrounded by way too many people. And as they announced my name, I reached for my notebook in my bag, but it wasn't there. So I started taking things out of the bag, but it still didn't appear. All of those hours of preparation and perfect arguments, they were all in that notebook, which was somewhere, just not with me. Having no other choice, I stood up and walked to the stage. And as I walked, I started to think, what's the worst thing that could happen? Stuttering, blanking out, losing, surely couldn't happen to me. It did. This is actually a photo of me. It looks like I know what I'm doing, when in reality I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I remember opening my mouth to speak, but nothing came out the way I'd practiced. I stuttered and repeated arguments. I could see my opponent's face gaining confidence, the smile was slowly disappearing. And the worst part, I knew in real time I was losing, and there was nothing I could do. I remember calling my mom and dad and telling them, Mom, Dad, I'm very disappointed in myself. I just lost one of the biggest debates of my life. And they told me, as long as you did your best, there is nothing you should worry about. But deep inside, I knew I didn't do my best. I knew I could have done way better, and that's what devastated me the most. However, what happened in the next 4 hours changed me forever. People I barely knew thanked me, approached me, thanked me, and even asked me how I made it this far. I just lost the finals, and people were congratulating me for it. What was going on? I remember when they announced our team for second place, the room erupted. And I'm standing there waiting for the cheering to disappear, but it didn't. It kept on going, and I'm thinking to myself, did they watch the same debate I was in? Because in my eyes, I had the worst argument of the entire event. And that's when it all clicked. I realized that influence doesn't come from consistently winning. It comes from losing with honesty. Now, before you all go out and start losing on purpose to become influential, let me be very clear. I'm not saying you should fail your next exam or screw up your college application to become a leader. I'm saying that when failure happens, and it will happen, the way you handle it in front of everyone can become your most powerful tool. I know that sounds counterintuitive. We have been taught the complete opposite. But failure doesn't really work that way. Give yourself a moment and think of your favorite leader, a basketball player, a family member, or a friend. But really do think about it. Why do you admire them? Is it because they never failed, or is it because they failed and yet decided to take accountability for it? I'm willing to bet on the second option because I'm sure most of you can relate. Perfection is like your grandma's glass sculpture. It's beautiful to look at, but it's impossible to touch. But failure is human. This is why I believe public failure is leadership's most powerful tool for building influence. And I learned this through 3 key points. Now, I know what you're thinking. When has failure become a useful tool? This brings me to my first point. Authenticity attracts more followers than perfection does. After losing the finals, I expected people, I'm going to be honest, I expected people to see me differently. I expected disappointment, regret, all of those negative emotions were present. However, the complete opposite happened. People were supportive, they connected with me because they also knew how losing felt. They could relate with me. These people, most of whom I'd met throughout the debate, didn't see a loser. They saw someone who failed honestly. And that's what surprised me the most. Now, hang on with me because this is where it gets interesting. There's actually a psychological term for this. It's called the paradox of Schadenfreude. God, psychologists love giving complex names to simple things, make them sound smarter. Anyway, these paradox, remember the time you failed an exam? Come on, we all did. You looked around the room, right? Hoping, praying, begging that you weren't the only one. And when you found out everyone else failed too, you felt relief. Suddenly, that 50% doesn't look so bad when the class average is 38. People don't follow perfection. People follow true character. And that's not something that can be staged or faked. And if you don't know how to handle a loss in front of an audience, you will not be trusted. So we've got the why it's important, but we need the how. Because let's be honest, when was the last time you Googled how to successfully fail? Yeah, me neither. Not exactly a trending topic by any means. However, this question actually matters. How can I fail in front of other people without sacrificing my reputation? After the finals, this brings me to my second point. Yes. My second point, knowing how to fail. After the finals, I considered blaming this. My notebook. Though I'll admit, at that moment, it was very tempting. It's not me, it's the notebook. But everyone saw what happened. My notebook didn't walk on stage unprepared. I did. It was my fault. Blaming my notebook would have only made it worse. So I decided to take a different approach. During the award ceremony, when they announced the winners, I decided to approach them. I shook their hand, looked them in the eye, and said, "Well done." And that's when I realized that single moment taught people more about my character than any other perfect debate ever could. So instead of trying to cover the truth, face it. Denying it won't make it disappear. So we've got the why it's important, and we've got the how to do it. But this is the question you should be asking. What if I don't? What am I losing if I don't do this? This brings me to my third point. Authenticity. Public failure frees leaders to innovate. Think, what happens when you are terrified of losing? You stop taking risks, you stop experimenting, you stop growing. You repeat what had worked until it doesn't, and to be quite frank with you, this happened to me. At the beginning of the event, we had to complete a set amount of points if we wanted to advance into the next round. The first round, we won. The second round, we also won, but the third round, we kept the same strategy, and we lost. And that's when I realized I either had to change or lose again. So we changed absolutely everything, from our opening statement to our arguments. We created the best arguments of the entire competition, at least at the beginning. Fourth round was the best score we've ever had. Actually close to being perfect. It was like 43 out of 45. But however, something happened after round 4. I became terrified. Terrified that if I changed anything else, we'd lose everything we'd gain. So we decided to play it safe. We decided to keep using the same arguments throughout the competition, and although that might be effective during the initial rounds, it wasn't effective during the finals. In fact, psychologist Carl Dweck compares these types of mindsets between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. One sees failure as an opportunity to grow, while the other sees it as a proof that you're not good enough. So let me ask you, how much are you willing to risk in order to grow? The next time you fail publicly, I want you to remember this, and really do remember. It's better to dare and fail than to stay safe and never try. I failed, and people respected me for it. So dare greatly. Your failure is visible. Make sure your character is too. Thank you.